I mean, it's everything really because we have soft power. We don't have any hard decision making power most of the time. There are a few times where research will really drive down decision making, and even then, you're not doing the thumbs up and down. You're just a person that they're relying on to do that. So being able to communicate clearly is a soft power in itself, and it's a very powerful thing if you can do it correctly.
Hey, Yao, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited that you're here.
Thank you for having me, Jen. It's been a while, and it's a pleasure being here.
Thank you. And you're right, it has been a while, but we're going to make up for that lost time now.
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
So I want to start off with I love a good origin story. So I would love, Yao, for you to tell me how you got into UX.
Oh yeah. So a lot of things had to come together, but like specifically came about random hangout, I'll say, pretty random. What led me to the introduction of the word, right? We were hanging out. This is right after we graduated. I was preparing to move to Germany, and we were hanging out at my friend's Jake's house. And the call came in. He wasn't supposed to be on the call, but somehow he was on that call. It was kind of like a butt down situation, but with a group. And they were talking about an app that they were building at that time, which was around, it was early 2015 or 2016. This was around meeting people to play sports with after work. The social side of things were growing, meeting around the sports and going to play. We're listening on the call, and I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense, or that makes sense. That won't work. And I was like, wait, why did you say that? I'm like, well, because that's basic human psychology. I mean, for me, it was always natural to look into things that people were doing. After that conversation, we got into a whole conversation around it. And I started thinking, is this possible? Do people do this for work? Like people building stuff, did it? Anything from, naming the company to selecting colors and so forth. I remember moving to Germany, living there, training, and then started thinking more about tech. Tech has showed up in my life a couple of times before. I had a recruiting internship in college the year before. So I've seen a lot of roles come through, but I didn't know what user experience was. So looking up a lot of stuff. I ended up finding the term, right? The term user experience. And a lot of the definitions at the time that were showing up were around psychology. My background is in industrial psychology. So everything kind of fit. It felt natural in a lot of ways. So that was my introduction on an outside of user experience. And I started practicing it almost right away. I only went to school to get my master's because I felt I needed a foundation, something more solid to kind of roll on. But that was my entry. I mean, I'll say my discovery of the term. This was pretty random, like a lot of people, but it matched exactly what I learned, what I was driven towards at that time. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about why you feel like it attracted you or you were driven to that.
I had a lot of common themes with industrial psychology, right? Being able to work with people in business in some way, shape, or form is what I was really driven toward. So working in creativity to solve problems at a psychological level enticed me. That everything matched, right? It was kind of a match made in heaven. I remember actually when we were in high school, there was this guy. I went to a school called Reservoir High School in Fulton, Maryland. And there was this guy that would come. And now, not thinking back on it, I know they set it up. He would come and he would do this whole rally about us being the friendliest school in the nation. I don't know why they did it. We all kind of believed it. And along the lines, they would tell us a lot about like the jobs. I remember being in an AP program at that time, and they would tell us that the jobs that we'll have, they're not there yet. Like our jobs will be creative. There are a lot of information architects already, right? Like from the 80s, but this wasn't a popular thing. I mean, it wasn't like I knew a bunch of UX, designers or product designer or whatever you call them now. But yeah, it matched exactly, I think, everything I was geared towards professionally in my life.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So what's interesting that you kind of made me think about, Yao, is there's some confusion sometimes around UX. You said there weren't a lot of UX folks around when you were learning about it. I'm sure you have encountered somebody who didn't quite get what you do and whatnot. I would love to know just what would you tell someone who's like, I don't understand what UX is. What do you do? What does this mean? What would you tell someone like that?
Yeah, I mean, my parents still don't fully grasp what I do. And that's how I usually check, right? That's how you check where you are in your career. If folks in your life, your parents looking at what you do, you might be in trouble as we're seeing in the field. But I think the simplest way to explain it is I make technology easier to use, right? Because the reason why I say that, and it's so simple, is because everyone has a pain point with a digital touch point in their lives, whether it's your phone, your computer, your Peloton bike, whatever it is, something freezes. You never remember how to get to a place or setting correctly. I'm the guy that's in a team somewhere behind someone helping make that easier, clarifying how that can be, right? Trying to be in the user's shoes, which is actually harder than it used to be a very easy thing to say, oh, be in the user's shoe, but it's actually pretty hard to do. So I say clearly that I help make technology easier to use. And usually older people really love that, right? Because they always have issues with this. And I actually just had this moment with my father at an airport where he was trying to do something and I was watching him use a phone and I'm like, we're not even close. We're not even close. I don't know why people are not hiring, but like you need a lot more of us to be able to capture this market.
I feel that pain. I've seen that so many times. A parent or an older person just doesn't get it at all.
The workarounds are pretty crazy too.
Very true. Very true. You touched upon something, yeah, technology, right? And I think we have to talk about the elephant in the room. And then big technology everybody is talking about now is AI. So I would love to know your thoughts on AI and how it relates or clashes with user experience.
Yeah, I'm actually reading this. Well, first things first, AI is a game changer, I'll say, in my working life, right? As long as I've been working in the professional world. Sure, before that, there were things like maybe the computer came in, the personal computer, and things changed. Before that, the calculator came in at some point for merchants, right? Like game changers in speed and all kinds of things. This is just a culmination of a lot more things together on a very small chip in a computer. AI changes the way we work. It changes the way we interact with each other. But right now in white collar work, it's changing the way we work. It's making things, if you are a creative person, it's enhancing that. If you're not, it's probably putting more load and pain point in your process, especially if you have to use it at work. There are workplaces that are really open and driving people to use this. My thoughts, it's here and it needs to be, we need to study, learn, and use it. Now, like anything else, it has its pros and cons, and we're seeing that almost right away. Whatever you train this artificial intelligence with, however you command or speak or query it, that's what it brings back, essentially. That has never gone away. It's still doing the same thing. It's just an external brain, right? Outside of yourself. But whatever you put in there is going to spit out. Maybe in other version, but it's going to do that. I'm reading an interesting book right now. There are these fools called like futurists in products or in the world of business, right? It's a growing field, like forecast and analysts with futurists. And Amy Webb wrote this book called The Signals of Talking. She's talking about the advancement and the trends and signals and being kind of on the fringe of stuff. And she wrote this book prior to OpenAI really launching into the things where it became a mainstream thing. But you can see that there were already signs around us about this thing coming in, right? The way it hits is not very predictable. It hits very differently, right? Whether it be job impact or how we communicate with each other, how much workload comes in and out of your daily work because you have AI is different. But I think it's here. I think we need to understand it, utilize it definitely, understand it, leverage it, and build with it is another medium of building, right? As we build digital experiences, now it's now infiltrated in that. So we need to learn how product people, professionals need to learn how to build with that and use it as well.
Yeah, I agree. I was reflecting on it a little bit today. It's shocking how much it's changed in such a short time span.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind, right?
It's so fast.
It's so fast. Like next week, what's going to happen? I don't even know. Is the sun going to come out? It's crazy. And I do agree. Yeah, we do need to play around with it. I'm playing around with it, but I'm taking a contrarian point of view and having challenges with it, I'll say, and playing around with it that way and calling bullshit in a sense because everyone's like, use AI. And I'm like, well, have you tested it? Let's time out and let's see how well it actually works.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I would love to know what you think of using AI in user experience research.
User experience research has a lot to do with the processes you already have going, right? It's a lubricant to the flow of things. AI being introduced into our repositories or our analysis tools that we're already using, we can already see that they're already doing the same thing at a much lower scale. Being able to put data in somewhere, tag it, theme it, share with the team, like some tools are doing, was already part of that transformation. Now, if you are a UX researcher and you have this available to you at work, you should be using it. But for what specifically are you using it for? Times where it would have taken you maybe weeks to deliver simple things, where that time shortens. Look, product teams are prone to now. It's when you're conducting research, everyone is engaged. Delivering at the pace that can keep that appetite going is important. And without AI, you can still do it to some levels, but with AI, you can do it much better. It's about understanding what you're working with. What kind of AI am I working? What am I putting in there? What am I asking it to do? There's no questions that you need to review your work carefully. But the ability to deliver work and bring people in quickly is a game changer to the product as you being part of the product team. But that being said, part of your process, you write a research plan, you talk to people. Now these conversations, if you're using Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, or if you're using Zoom, whatever, they all have it now. You can get that conversation, you can transcribe it, you can turn that literal conversation into a research plan. Amazing. A 2-week turnaround, a week turnaround, and chasing people turn into maybe a 10-minute, 15-minute turnaround where everyone can now work on that document and align. Then moving on to executing the research, thematically analysis, and so forth. Great. But key thing here is finding ways to take the answers from an executed study, writing it in a tone of a business executive, writing it in different people's tones so they can understand your language is critical. We have not been really good at speaking everybody's language, and they make the decision. We don't make the decisions. It doesn't really matter where you are, how you feel about that. Decisions come down from business executives, whether it be gut feeling or years of experience, data that you may not be purview to, that comes down into product, and product builds solutions. Being able to speak to them and inform them is important. That's one way AI can help. So instead of going to get an MBA, you can speak to an AI conversationally, say, hey, here's my report. I want to translate this to an executive, a marketing executive, for example, that has 10 minutes to read this. How should I do this? It's about asking questions also, opening up your mind, having other areas to kind of really bring language forth. I think at the heart of all we do is still communication. It's like all of these tools or all of these techniques, it comes down to being able to communicate with people. Great business people learn how to communicate. Simple. So a lot of my use in AI is how to communicate, communicating clearly, communicating their language, building examples. What is it like to build a use case in a storytelling format? So that's when a person is reading, they're enthralled with what's going on and they get a really deep understanding of what my research has done. That being said, one, applying it to your day-to-day process makes it easier, smoother, faster if you already have a process. If you don't have a process, you need to learn how to have a process first. Otherwise, it won't work anyways. The second part is using it to get an understanding of other business in your industry or in your organization. Speaking to literally business executives, speaking to different leaders, different people with different acumens and different language barriers to UX talk, and that are not in our UX bubble. I think that's another way that it really helps, right? Getting understanding of market data that comes in, being able to read hard, raw, quantitative data. These are the things you should be using it for, making it easier to communicate with people. And that's what I really use it for. That's where it's been the most useful, is quickly being able to understand what other people are saying without having to do a whole study on it and communicate with them clearly.
Yeah, I love that. You usually hear about synthesis or summaries of
That's the
data,
easy
but
part.
yeah, if we're at the research
Right,
sessions, right, you have an idea of
right.
what was discussed. I guess my concern about the summary and the synthesis is what about those aha moments, those
Mm,
little nuggets you don't want buried? You want those to come out.
yeah,
And so I worry that AI won't know the importance of those and it will suppress it.
yeah.
But if you were there, you're conducting the research, you're going to have the wherewithal to remember to bring that up because you
That's
were
right.
like, that's
That's right.
important.
It's gonna take
And I,
quite a while for
yeah,
generative AI. I'm saying quite a while, but the speed of the way these things are developing is so fast. If I'm in a session and the person says, "Yeah, that's how I feel about it," that moment where the person goes, and I'm going, "Wait, wait. So what are you going to say?" It will miss that. I'm about to get the best data because the person had showed expression that allowed for me to dig deeper. Right now, it cannot. If you let AI synthesize your research, you're doing it wrong. You need to use it to, like a calculator. You still need to input things for it to help you do that. You have transcripts. Transcripts are perfect word for word things. That's great. That's a proof. That's a hard blueprint proof of what happened. Now, being able to take that and put it in format that people can understand is really important. Taking the synthesis and analysis part is going to get so much better. That's not the thing, but being able to like use that to influence or to put someone that doesn't have one-on-one relations with the user in those shoes are what we're really looking for. I love doing scenarios or putting analysis into scenarios or storytelling, real stories that we can get. I can't wait for to be able to develop short movies, taking my research to short movies so people can watch. We're visual people. I have not worked in one organization that does not like clips from research session. Everyone loves that. That's what they really gravitate towards. So things that help me take those clips into moments that we can all sit around, those are the things that we want AI to be able to do in our field, I think.
yeah, I really love that. I love that perspective. I don't hear it a lot. Everyone's talking about, oh, summaries and
Yeah,
synthesis, but
yeah,
I love that you're talking about one of our biggest hurdles and our biggest pain points as UX researchers, and that is communication
yes,
and effectively communicating what we've learned,
yeah,
tying it to business value,
that's right.
right?
That's right. That's right. I
Yeah.
mean, it's everything really because we have soft power. We don't have any hard decision making power most of the time. There are a few times where research will really drive down decision making, and even then, you're not doing the thumbs up and down. You're just the person that they're relying on to do that. So being able to communicate clearly is a soft power in itself, and it's a very powerful thing if you can do it correctly.
Yeah, I love that. I really do. It's an interesting turn. I didn't see this conversation going. Oh, it's great. It's awesome. So, thank you for that. Yeah, I want to switch gears a little bit and I
Yeah.
want to talk about this little thing called UXCon, which
Oh
is a
yeah.
conference that you are organizing.
Yeah.
I'll put links in the show notes, but tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. So UXCon 25 is this year, October 9th in Silver Spring, DC, Maryland. And we had the first session last year. And it came out of when I met you, I was doing Research Bookmark, building Research Bookmark, and we were learning. And during those Research Bookmark years, and that's been 5 years, believe it or not, already, which is insane. It's right, like we've tried and learned so much about our field as far as education goes, delivering user experience knowledge to folks, whatever that may be. Somewhere along that journey, we started finding out more than software. My idea was just building a Wikipedia style app, web app for folks to use. And that's what it is. If you go on in, that's what it is. And we'll talk about that in a second. But we learn more about people's behavior of learning than anything. I remember the first time we did what ChatGPT is now. Our first version of Research Bookmark was a search bar, and no one used it. It was a conversational search bar, and people have search phobia, which I have a lot of data on. Search phobia is a real thing, and there's a bunch in there. When you put something in front of someone and you say, all of a sudden you have all of the power in the world, they freeze first. And they freeze on what do I do first? More than if you give them a limited amount of stuff and you say, here's what you have. They tend to act. Very fascinating things. that journey, we learn how people want to learn, how people want to give to each other. One thing we keep running into, and a lot of it was happening right before COVID and through COVID, where a lot of our behaviors were changing. So we were online a lot. Filled 500, 600 people at webinars, like all over the world. It was amazing. But then that behavior died down. People wanted to come back, learn differently. There was a lot of burnout on screens, a lot of burnout on LinkedIn advising, all of that was getting burnt out. So 2024. This was 23 November, October, November. My wife and I were in DC. We were visiting my sister-in-law. I guess I had conversations around this. I just came back from UXCon Vienna. I spoke at UXCon Vienna that year. When I went there, I told them, I said, hey, I'm going to do UXCon DC and you guys should be. And they're like, oh, that'd be cool. It hit me again that we should really do a conference. There's one thing saying, and there's another thing trying to do a ball game. I called Table first, my co-founder and my business partner. I said, hey, man, we have to do a conference. He said, why? I said, well, because there's no conference on the East Coast. He's going to ask me the business questions right away. Why? There's no conferences on the East Coast. I have to go out to find conferences. And you know what? I want to build a different type of conference. When I leave conferences, all of this technical stuff that you find, that you learn there while you're sitting there comes in. None of it stays when I stand up. Only thing that stays is meeting Jen, meeting people, meeting Julian at the UX side. I mean, he was at the conference last year and you were going to be in this year. These are the moments that really make it. And I want to build a conference around that because all of our data, all of the people we talk to showed us that people want to connect with each other. What really sticks are these relationships that are built on friendship, career, and a mix of things. That's what really strengthen the bottom of our profession. And that's the only way it's really going to live. So we started thinking about this concept. And, right away, I talked to some organizers and everybody mentioned, well, do you have a track? What kind of track? What do you guys talk about? AI, this and that? We're not going to do any of that. I'm not interested in any of that. I'm interested in inspiration and connection. Once a year, come in person, get inspired, fill that inspiration jar, get ideas, get excited about your profession again, not just day in and day out. People that are coming into the field, come meet people. This is what UXCon is about. There's a mix of, and I would say it's a 80, 20, 90, 10% of 20% of you're going to hardcore skills, people talking about how to do things, technique, ways of really maybe convincing someone, which is all we really talk about, or getting our way through. And the other part is about you, career. What are you thinking about? Where is it going? How are you growing in that sector? What are people before you done? What are they doing now? And if you happen at some point in your life to be looking for a job, who would you reach out to? Who has the in and the connection? These are real things. I this year read the World Economic Forum report on jobs report, and I just happened to be, reading it for something else. But then it really dawned on me that they talked to 55 markets, 14 million employees, just number of all the Fortune companies, and people are mentioning soft skills as why you get hired today. Being able to communicate, being able to adapt, being able to be creative in solving some things. This is what UXCon is about. This is what I want to bring to the fore. I don't want to talk about any techniques. I don't want to talk about any methods. You can learn that on your own. There's so many free resources today that we spent the last 5 years building. Now it's time to enact on those in a bigger way by connecting with the people doing it, by letting yourself get inspired. So we did the first one last year and it was awesome. The energy in the room was fantastic. It was a great turnout, and we want to bring people together again in UXCon 25. So this conference is about you. It's about the core of our profession. Who are the people? Building that network helps you build your knowledge. It helps you utilize it better. That's what it's about.
Love that. I think there is a misconception of you go to a meetup or a conference and you're going to pass out resumes and there's going to be a million recruiters there and there's going to be a job on the spot. I think that there was a perception of that, especially years ago. And that's not the case. Let's be real. It's not going to happen. But what could happen is you meet someone and you have some peer mentors or make those connections like you're talking about. And I have so many friends, peer mentors that I met at meetups when I was first getting into UX that, you just want to vent to or learn from. And what tools are you using? How do I deal with this shitty stakeholder? You know,
That's
a
right.
million things. Somebody who gets you,
Yeah.
your pain points.
Yes. People relate to people. So when they hear your story and how you got into UX, someone in the world will hear my story and be like, yeah, I relate to that guy because, that's how mine happened. And so many of us do that and we end up finding common ground in a lot of places. This is what really drives your learning. I am way more likely to follow advice from someone I know than some random article online. We can write and we can produce as many posts as we can, but people relate to people's stories. So when that happens, you get this clarity for yourself. Each and every individual that gets clarity and joy in our profession builds a whole profession up. The work gets better all across. And all of these industries, they copy each other in a lot of ways. All of the CEOs, all of the fortunes, they see behavior. These UX teams are really raising the bar here. We're going to hire more. We're going to interact with them more. And that's done through us. There's quite a bit of concern right now with maybe the market and how things are going. We're just normalizing. And finding your way through that, you need a great network. You need a good amount of people in your village to help you navigate where we're going next.
Absolutely. I hear you. So, kind of related to that, yeah, you talked about UX bookmarks is what you started with years ago. And you got a lot of data when you started that site. And then it kind of evolved into User Experience University, probably based on the data that you've learned. But I think a fundamental foundation of what those platforms are is upskilling people and helping them to be more ready to enter the UX market.
That's right.
And I would love to know that story, that evolution, and why that is really your mission in a sense.
Yeah. I love teaching. I taught K through 12, and when I graduated, so I love teaching. I just end up finding myself in it. And then when I start doing it, I get really enthused about the whole thing, sharing knowledge. So the way Research Bookmark happened at the time was that I just started teaching university at MICA, and I was teaching a class called the Psychology of User Experience. It was a great class. I had to build it from the ground up. Really interesting. I had 3 students. It was really good because this is my first time teaching university and you need to figure some things out. And it was a really great class. But I realized doing the research to build this curriculum that we're all over the place. You'll find things on Nielsen Norman groups. You'll find things on YouTube. Things were all over the place. And there was no way to actually understand that this was a qualitative source or not. I love user experience. So when I started, I think I was telling you about getting to user experience. I started school, went back to get my master's in user experience. In the program, I read every book cover to cover, everything. I have a bunch of those books. But when it came to the digital space, it was all over the place. No one had a handle on organizing it. First, I was going to call it, Cav will tell you this story. I was going to call it Research Nuggets because that was fun. But I'm going to call it a Research Bookmark because I kept going back. I have bookmarks with UX stuff, just like down to the page, multiple bookmarks. And a lot of times, a lot of what I will have in different folders will be the same thing because I will really like something and I'll bookmark it again and I'll find the same things. It's just all over the place. I'm like, there has to be a way to organize this. I went into my second teaching year and I started realizing that we are really all over the place. We need to find a way to organize this data. So I had this formula of rating on authority, clarity. There's a whole thing that we built in the back end, and we started reading sources hand by hand. We read over 1,000 sources, read them, rate them, put them in, read them, rate them, put them in, until we started using an algorithm to do that. It was really deep work, actually. And it was the largest database of UX knowledge in the world. It still is, and it's even more enhanced now. So we did that for quite a bit. The problem that it solved was interesting. It did organize things, but people realized that people learning out of context didn't really work as much. So when the whole thing started, we brought in, I don't know, maybe over 20 interns in the Research Bookmark back then. And we'll bring them in and they'll work and they'll get really good at user experience. Their vocabulary is the first thing that needs to change if you come into the field. And they were applying it on some of our tools, and we really seen growth there. What we noticed is that the platform needs to go with the real life situation. So we tried other things. We tried people with companies and using the tool. We tried everything. We tried, what is it? What do you call these things? The learning courses. We did everything, and everything was successful, but not sustainable. So the platform came from that idea that things were disorganized and they needed to be brought into an organized form. But then it created some other things that came out of that. Like, well, it's organized, reading it, but you don't know how to apply it. You're just gonna take it. And it needs to be applied in a situation. You need to bring classes or courses or challenging so that the learning can actually stick. So people had information, but it wasn't sticking. But we brought the information. We solved the first problem, the first layer of that problem, which is organizing. But yeah, that's why it came together. I just thought things were disorganized and I wanted to organize them. And I like teaching and it was fun. I like building things. But this was a time where a lot of people were building kind of like startups and wanted to raise money and all of that. And all that was, it was really exciting to do that.
Yeah, organizing all of the UX terms, ecosystem, differentiators. How the hell are you going to do that?
The problem just got deeper. I mean, you saw organizing in one language, and then you realize that other markets had different ways of looking at things. Some of them were, I wouldn't say behind, they were just different. Like, if you take a market like Africa, conducting research in Africa is way different than conducting research in the States or in Europe. So there are different things there. They all come into the same platform, but maybe not getting the same things out of it. It was incredible. I mean, problems just kept opening up and there kept being more debt into all of this. And we kept saying that any of these tools, right, whether it be Adobe or Figma now, none of them have a research wing. There's no, you can go and look up, maybe bring in templates from stuff, but there was nothing attached as knowledge to that. And we're aiming at them to like really take our tool and use it so people can learn more as they're doing design, these kind of things too. But yeah, it was a difficult problem. It was easy on the first layer, but then you look deeper and it kept just flowing out.
Yeah, because we have user experience designer, product designer, UI designer. Like we can't even have a baseline understanding of what we call ourselves
Yeah.
and the terms we use, right?
Sector to
It's crazy.
sector. Yeah, it's a customer experience. Like things, there's this bubble chart that's on the web. Maybe you'll find it and put it on the side of this conversation that it shows CX and then everything that comes off of it, information architecture. We are interconnected. There are a lot of content designers. There's so many things. It's incredible.
Yeah, let's face it, it's a little bit of a hot mess
Yeah.
sometimes. Oh, so we start out with research bookmarks, and then it kind of perhaps has evolved into User Experience University,
Yep.
right?
Yep, it
So
did.
tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the evolution was, so when we did, as I told you, we started with Research Bookmark on Notion. It was a Notion page, a bunch of sources, organized, really wonderful. And then we went into a bit of code, put in a search engine behind it, fed it so that when you go and search on Research Bookmark, you only got UX answers, no ads, nothing. If you put in shoes, you find user experience on shoes. There's something out there for it. And there's so many things you didn't imagine. During that journey, we built and tried so many things, whether it be workshops, classes, boot camps, we tried a bit of everything. And we kept feeling that there was an ecosystem being built. And like I told you, the problem was you had this knowledge, the person comes to the knowledge, reads it. Maybe they can, there are a lot of people going into the field, maybe they can really apply it. They just read the term. Another missing thing there. Okay, how many times did people come? So right before that, we started a newsletter on Substack, User Experience University, which was Research Bookmark Substack at that point. And we started seeing how we can share information, how it can reach you in different ways. User Experience University was a good rebrand. One, it was, as I learned more myself about product, marketing, business, which a lot of folks in our field are not just, they're not business people. The name itself was great for us. It was cute for us, but it didn't reach outside of that. I believe ultimately that user experience will need to infiltrate everyone's way of working, thinking, being for it to be really successful. Not that we won't have practitioners like us anymore, but the business person needs to take a UX class throughout his school or career or even at work. Everyone needs to take one because it changes the way you think. I remember reading the Design of Everyday Things at some point and it boom, right? So when I changed the name, it was both business, marketing, it was more understanding. I'll tell you what, the text is always here. If I meet someone or my parents and I say, hey, I built this thing called Research Bookmark, they go, what's that? They'll ask me the same question every time. But if I say User Experience University, you at least grasp the foundation of what we're doing. University, so you're teaching something. There's some school, there's a connotation to school in there. We've done our job. Now we can reach more people. I wanted to break out of the silos of research and design and so forth and bring people that were just looking at to improve their businesses. They're trying to maybe learn a bit of customer experience journey mapping and stuff like that. You can find that in the User Experience University ecosystem. You can go to university to learn all types of different things. We just happen to be in this one world, but that was what the mood was for. We also end up killing a lot of what we were doing that wasn't working. They were all working, they were sustainable, right? Like this is our own money going into this. The boot camps, the classes, the free webinars, we end up just chopping all of that off to bring what remains to be something people can access easier, they can understand on the front end. And that's where the conference also came in, right? It was gonna book into this ecosystem. You come in, you have a newsletter that you may get that feeds your information. And if you want it deeper, you go deeper because we link out to all these sources. And then once a year, you get to inspire and connect with these people and grow your career. So that's why User Experience University came into place, to cut the fat, eliminate the waste, reach out to more people, be more understandable. Like we talked about, communicating. It's still at the center of everything. Communicating our intent to the world very clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you say, Yao, that university is the audience for that is not just UX folks?
It's not just UX folks. Anyone can come in and learn. My wife is a PT, right? And if you look at the process in which physical therapists engage people and bring them in and help them, it's the same as us. They evaluate things and they do comparative analysis on where the person should be or what's going on. And then they start treating. They start creatively treating this person and helping them get better. And then they measure. We didn't invent any of the processes that we use. Much older, profession than ours. And she used that to improve her website and the way she engages people post therapy and stuff like that. So anyone can use it. Now, it's really hard to reach outside of our world because even the word user experience is inaccessible in a lot of ways. Nobody speaks in those terms in daily life. User experience. Okay, well, experience means a lot of things to a lot of people. User, that restricts it even more. Like nobody uses the word user. Customer experience or people experience, maybe, right? So anyone can, even an SEO, it was a move, even an SEO leads to this, right? Like User Experience University. So there's learning to be happening here. You're not blocked out of it and so forth. And credit to Tabo, my co-founder. First he brought up, I'm like, I wanted to call it User Experience Universe, which made us even more, like restrict us even more because that's a small universe. We need to be everywhere. We need to be like air around people instead of trying to stand out and be our own little thing. The more I thought about it, the more I understood about business and started thinking about communication and how expensive words are. Words are very expensive, so use them carefully. Those 3 words can say to anybody on the planet, at least the foundation of what we do.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like a little bit, that your awareness of user experience, whatever that lofty term means, probably contributed to your wife's awareness as well.
Yes.
And she could apply that to her business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of digging that because I feel like we often project on others, oh, you need to make a good user experience, but we're not good at translating the value or what those words mean.
Yes. It's such a block. And when I keep using the word, I'm going to overuse this word communication because it's so simple. We used to laugh at people in college that had a communications degree because we thought it was the easiest thing, especially when you're a student that actually was like, hey, he's just so you can play sports. The reality is that major is now more important than ever, especially in a world where we can compute at a speed of thought. AI will keep getting better. Will keep getting brighter and brighter as we move on forward. So the ability to communicate becomes gold, right? Like, can I explain? Can I take this, whatever I've done, whatever I've learned, if I cannot properly communicate the intent to the executive, to the product manager, designer to whoever, it does not matter. It won't work, essentially. And this is why we see a lot of drop off in teams and value drop off too. It's like, well, what's the value of this? Well, there's a lot of value where you're able to communicate it, right? The foundations of business, marketing, sales, those things have proven themselves for thousands of years. They've been there, they've proven themselves. You know why you have a sales team, to sell more. You need a dedicated salespeople. There's a certain training to that. Why you need a marketing team. You know why you need business analysts. You need UX people, yes, but I don't know why. I know when a trend is hot, we want more, but then we don't really know why. And that's also on us to communicate. Well, there's two ways to this: listening and also understanding that ROI takes a while to build up and to recognize. And then for us also for us to communicate that intent clearly so that they can understand in their language. We bring them to force them to our language, also their language, right? What does that mean to the business that this customer is now responding to this specific their journey? What does that mean to the business, to the ROI? Spending more of my time, 2-3 years, learning more about business, learning more about money. And it's clearing up a lot of reasons why teams are going down. It's so clear because I run a business, because I have to build Research Bookmark, which is the first advice I give any college students or whoever. Go start something. If you get an interview after you try to start something, be so much more comfortable in front of the person asking you the questions, because you know what they're thinking. There's a reason why they don't want this and they want to cut this and they want to do that. They're thinking about what measures the world, what the world's measure is, not just this specific thing. So it's a game changer, that whole communication thing. I can't speak on it enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you brought up a good point about the bottom line is the metrics, right? The ROI. Other professions like sales can point to specific numbers in a spreadsheet or on paper, what they pulled in. So how easy it is to measure. Oh, okay, that was the ROI because they brought this revenue in.
That's right.
Or even measuring lines of code. I don't know how much value that is, but at least it's countable, right? Yeah. There's survey results and whatnot, but we don't have numbers to point to and say, because of this thing, we brought in X amount of dollars.
A good thing on that. We have to learn other people's numbers and their charts, the way they're reading it. It's been there longer. Business relies on sales metrics and sales vocabulary, profit and loss, P&Ls, all of these things. They rely on those things to make decisions. We have not been there long enough to have our own coded language that business understands. So if I'm trying to show my ROI, instead of coming up with this crazy formula that hasn't anything to do, I'm first going to the sales and marketing people and say, hey, this move that we made resulted directly in more sales calls for you. We can see that. Then I'll build my numbers off of their numbers. The first thing, because then when business looks at it, they can see why this number rose, because UX, the product team, the researcher did something and it was implemented. So that they can now read that language because that's their language. If I come out of left field and trying to explain it through none of the language you speak, it's just miscommunication, right? I need to plug into marketing and the SEOs and the click rates. This move in click rates for sure. I'm going to attach a number to it. Can we align on this? Yeah, we can see that. We see that your move did help us. Great. I'm going to hook onto that. That becomes my base metric. And then I'm going to go to sales and hook onto a number, and everything starts wobbly. Then it stabilizes. Then we can really see it. But we have to get into their language. We have to read their numbers, understand what their Excel sheets are saying. Do it. Game changer for your career. You're much more valuable in that way than not.
Yeah, drop the elitist fancy terms of mental models and cognitive dissonance and all the stuff that people don't give a shit about.
That's for us. That's for us.
Yeah, talk about that all you want, but meet them where they are.
Yeah, right? Meet them where they are. They make the decisions. If you want to make the decision to switch careers, move to that side of the curve and see if the grass is greener. They have different things to deal with too. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I hear you. So yeah, I want to switch a little bit. You've really hit the point home of communication being a key skill. Yep. And I know that through your experience of Research Bookmarks and UX or User Experience University, there are other skills that you find really important that a UX person should have. Talk to me a little bit about some of those other skills that you think are critical to being successful in UX. Wow, there was so much great stuff in that interview with Yao. I'm going to have to break this into more than one part. Sorry, or not sorry. So, check out the next episode of my interview coming up next.